Oh,
I did it,
dumpster.
guys.
What a surprise that you hated it.
It took me all year to finish it because it was just absurd, tedious, sanctimonious garbage. So bad. And I hated every minute of it. All of the characters are terrible human beings. She writes these characters that are supposed to be like your heroes, that are these, you know, like powerful titans of business, and they're all assholes. Every single one of them. They're all completely selfish. And then she, you know, writes
just like the author.
The greatest virtue. I mean, that was a deep virtue for her.
And the like evil characters that are just, you know, back room, like rubbing their hands together, evil laughter, like we're gonna come up with plans to make sure everybody is happy and we all help each other. Like, it's comical how like buffoony the like villains are that like are pushing these ideas of like social responsibility. Now, you know, depending on what your current politics are, you know, you may like feel one way or the other about some of these characters, but it is like so over the top that it seems like it's a parody of what she's trying to say. It was awful, not to mention the main female protagonist hated. Speaking of authors who hate women, Ayn Rand. It was miserable the entire time. This character is supposed to be powerful and independent woman, and she makes up her own mind, except for she only wants to have sex with men who want to rape her. It's
super rapey book.
It's
all her books
crazy.
are very rapey,
and it's, you know, like mind-boggling. I think how anybody can spin this any other way. Like, she even says in the book at a certain point somebody's coming after her, and she's just like, I didn't give consent, you know. And this character's thinking this in her head. She's like, I didn't give my consent, but I want this. But he doesn't know that. I'm just like, that's rape, like, you know, like, and he just like shoves her down and throws her around. It's terrible and kind of triggering to read, and I just can't believe like how big this book got and like how widely
like renowned. And Ayn Rand is trash. Sorry, Mom. It is.
She like just her whole shtick overall, like she this like super, it's like objectivism, and she's got this like super cloistered philosophy, you know, group where like if you spoke out of turn or spoke against her, like you were out. Like, it's a very, you talk about
just like cut off
snowflakes, you know. She had a very cloistered life, and she, you know, came from like, you know, 1920s Russia and moved to the United States and was just like very bitter and really angry about the you know, things that she saw in Russia. And so her writing is terrible.
It's like, it's so bad. Like, the whole thing doesn't even, it's like over 1,000 pages, and it's this long just drudgery of, you know, like small plot points after plot points. You know, it's very like, you know, you could tell she's trying to be kind of calculated about the storyline, and then like spoiler, I guess, warning, in the end, like the rise and stuff is just like this insane, absurd, like clash of like people running around. There's kidnappings, there's torture, and murder, and it just like all happens really quickly, with these people who are like titans of industry, you know, so don't have any of that background, and then you turn it into this like terrible like 1970s like spy thriller kind of clash ending. It's doesn't make any sense. It doesn't fit. Like, your book's garbage. I read it though. Like, it's the last Ayn Rand I'm ever going to touch.
You're not going to pick up The Fountainhead?
I've already read The Fountainhead.
So you're done. You're good.
So
you
done.
did it.
Like,
just to make sure.
Yeah.
I had to make sure.
Yeah.
You know, and I actually, it's funny because I would like
You
to
weren't
see
secretly a Republican.
a Book Riot Read Harder challenge category. It was like, pick up a book that's like sort of diametrically, different from your values, or that it comes from a political persuasion that's different than yours, or a set of ideas that's like challenging to you. Like, I think
there's
that would
definitely
be a
value
great
in that.
one.
Yeah.
Not Ayn Rand.
Yeah.
It's just trash. But something else.
I did read Comey's book last year, so I think that counts a higher loyalty.
God.
Because I thought he was going to say something. I was duped. He didn't say shit. He talked about my favorite line. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but he's talking about his first job being a bagger in a grocery store. And he says he was a pillar of excellency at bagging. And I'm just like, why are you like this?
Wow.
Why are you the way that you are? You were a grocery bag. Like, no offense to people who work in grocery stores, but I just don't think they're describing themselves that way.
Yeah.
It was just like, that's everything you need to know about
His character.
what he says.
I could not read that. I let you read that and tell me about it, because I was not going to give that man any money.
He revealed nothing. I returned it instantly on Audible, by the way, after I read it. Because I was like, nope. I need my credit back. Thank you very much.
You, sir, are trash. Goodbye.
I have to talk about one of my favorites for my... Even though I read like 3 books posthumously, not really on purpose, but I counted this one for true crime, was I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara, who died very suddenly. Many know her for being married to Patton Oswalt and having a blog about true crime, but she did, next to the lead investigator, more work than anyone on the Golden State Killer, and even dubbed his name. And he was found not very long after her book was published, and obviously, the people who found him deserve some credit, even though it was in a sketchy way, and that might be used later terribly. But tips coming in and things like that are definitely because of renewed interest, and I think she had a large hand in that.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bittersweet ending, right? Like
the fact that she died without knowing, when she was so obsessed, they described like the boxes and boxes in her house, and her team had to finish the book for her, which they admitted that they didn't even try to write in her voice. That it's very clear that this is where she stopped writing, and they're like, we're not going to try because we can't match. I think it was just so humanizing. It's almost like just a sprinkle of her own memoir because of her obsession. That's the tagline, and it really is. She's obsessed with finding this, and I don't know, I just really respect her tenacity, and I love that Patton Oswalt made sure to finish it.
I'm hoping in the next year or two that a book comes out about the whole thing, but with her book. I want to see, one of the reasons I haven't read it is because I know that it doesn't end with him getting caught, if that makes sense. And what I want to read is something that sort of encapsulates everything that happened from the past to her writing it to her passing away to them catching him. And
they really do need to add sort of an afterword, because it was, so I read it before he was caught. It came out maybe a month before, and I read it immediately when it came out. And then it was a month later. So now that we know about him, and it's funny because they talked about Ancestry.com and going that route, and it basically how they caught him was through DNA testing, but it wasn't the big sites. It was one of the smaller ones that didn't have the same privacy clause. And they found a family member of his that hit with his DNA. And that does have all sorts of implications for future crimes that I think are terrible. I think if we can just agree that this one man who raped and murdered 50 people deserves to be caught that way and no one else. I wish that's how it worked. Just this one.
Yeah,
but I don't think it will be.
I don't know if there's any Law & Order SVU fans out there, but they actually did an episode this season that was based off of.
That looks traumatizing. I saw your snap and was I don't know if I
can
watch it.
DNA was, ran through one of those family ancestry sites and stuff too. So they kind of cover all of the pieces to it.
I told my little sister, because she's done the whole ancestry thing. She's an avid ancestry mapper, and I'm So now I don't ever get to murder anybody.
Away with it,
and you did this. It's your fault.
Yeah, because it's not even you. It's anybody close to you and your family. My mom's done Ancestry.com, but not actually sent her DNA away. I think she has like a little too much. I'm not going to let the big government get me. So good job, Mom.
Yeah.
Anyway, what else stuck out for you guys?
Well, I have some favorites for 2019.
Okay.
That I've been reading, but I don't know if we want to move on.
Sure.
I mean, I'm down for that. We kind of covered our highs and our lows.
Highs and lows, yeah.
So
I mean, we're still early in 2019, so it's what, February 7th ish or whatever date it is.
That's correct.
And so I'm like well on the way, and I've knocked out maybe 6 or 7 books. I've been very busy.
Nice.
But so I read, I think the 2 books I've read, Milkman, which won the Man Booker Prize last year.
Mm-hmm.
That was fucking phenomenal. Like, that book is so good, and I want everyone to just put this podcast down and go read it.
And then that's for a book by a woman and or an author of color that won a literary prize in 2018.
Yep. That was...
I'm excited to read that one.
I got that on audiobook, and I like almost insist that people listen to it on audiobook because the accents are amazing. The narrator is phenomenal. This book is really cool. The narrator does not refer to herself by her name. She calls herself, she's middle sister, and she refers to her older sister and the little sisters. She refers to a guy she's dating as maybe boyfriend. And then there's the one person who actually has a name has more of a name is called Milkman. Milkman has decided that he wants her to be his mistress. She's 18 years old, and she, in the sort of during the troubles in Ireland in the 70s, and this is an 18-year-old girl who has an incredibly keen eye for the social rules of the time and can see a sort of trap closing in on her, and there's just a lot of dread, which may or may not be your thing, but holy shit,
sounds
it was
intense.
So good. It was intense, but it was and if I'd known it was gonna be that intense, I might not have even picked it up, but I'm really glad that I did. And then another book I've read is The Overstory.
I haven't heard of that one.
It's it's like 500 something pages. It's pretty thick. A lot of trees. Had to die for this book about trees.
The Overstory is about trees?
It is all about trees, yeah.
I read The Hidden Life of Trees for last year's book about nature, which was also quite great.
I need to read that, and this probably has a lot of overlap, but yeah, it's a sort of like a sweeping generational drama about trees in the United States, and I definitely loved the first half. I struggled with the second half, but I think in the big picture just left appreciating trees, and also had an interestingly positive ending note when you think you're going to read a book about trees and feel super depressed about where we're going as a nation and as a globe. And he had a weirdly upbeat ending, but also just sort of like, well, kids, we fucked this one up, but when most of us die, and we will, there'll still be a few of us left, and the trees are going to save our asses again. Maybe we'll learn next time. So it was weird.
I don't know if that's quite
Life
upbeat,
will
but
always
it's a
find
little
way.
bit.
It was. I don't know.
Definitely the world without us.
Jurassic Park motto.
Yeah, something like that. So those are the two
Nice.
big ones I've been reading this year for the Read Harder Challenge.
I started Norse mythology, which is just lovely, and I'm listening to it and reading the physical copy, but I love Neil Gaiman's voice.
I was going to say, does Neil Gaiman...
Of course he does, and so I have to, like,
He's
his
pretty...
sweet voice is just so, like, cozy. I'm in my chair with my blanket, and he's just, like, lulling me to sleep. I do have to keep rewinding because it's just like, oh, I'm out again.
I need to listen to that. I like
Yeah. He also, if another thing in my Audible, reads Ocean at the End of the Lane, and that's also just like such a beautiful little, like, it's not quite child's fairy tale, but it's like childlike, and it's just, I love it.